Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of God, welcome to another episode of the most offensive podcast ever. I'm Slimmy V, and today we're going to be talking about the Boston Celtics head coach, Ime Udoka, okay, and his recent situation in having a fling with someone, and right now he's in trouble. He's suspended for basically a year. Now, before I go further into this, what I want to say is something that I didn't think that I would say, right? But it's a two-way street for me right now. I agree with Stephen A. Smith in this wait that this should not have been leaked in the way that it did. Because there are other parties involved. Okay, let me repeat that. Ime affair with this lady should not have been leaked because there are other parties that could get hurt. That should have been kept private. Right? But I say this, I agree with Stephen A. Smith in that this should not have been aired, this should not have been made public. But I also blame Stephen A. Smith. Now, I'm going to tell you why I blame him after we watch this clip. It's two back-to-back clips from Jason Whitlock. Those are the clips I actually wanted to use, and he got them on there. So let me piggyback off of that, and I'll talk about it right after.
And I'm going to take it a step further. I don't appreciate that being done to a brother. Because I got news for you, America. There's plenty of white folks in professional sports that's doing their thing. And I say that not complimentary.
This is the part that I actually disagree with him about. You don't have to make it racial. You do not have to go there. Right? The problem with him going there is this, and I'm going to tell you. First, I agree with him that this should not have been made public because there are other people, maybe children, wife, and everything that can get hurt. Who know? The person that he's messing with has a family that could potentially get hurt. Yet I know that they put themselves in that position to get hurt. Totally get that. But for the other party's sake, I think we should respect the other people. Now, to get back to Stephen A. Smith making it into a race issue. Now, yes, I agree with you that this should not have been made public. But what if the Boston Celtics suspended him for a year without us knowing what it is? You, Stephen A. Smith, who always racialized something, would come out and say, you see, they suspended him. We don't even know why. He took them to the championship round. Yeah, they didn't win, but he took them there. And look what they're doing to the brother. They just want to suspend him so they could put a white man in their place. See, because you always make things racial. That now they may have felt, let's give an explanation as to why we're doing this. You see, this whole being woke thing, and Stephen A, man, I used to agree with a lot of Stephen A's point, but since 2020, or maybe late 2019, or I don't know, since Colin Kaepernick, it felt like he just don't like white folks. It felt like he just have a hatred for white folks. He's talking about, there's a lot of white folks that do this too. Like, you gonna name names? You know? Like, what the heck? Where the hell is this coming from? Let me continue and let you hear this comment because I got some other stuff I want to show you.
I don't see the information out about them. Why are we talking about this now? We got to talk about it.
Maybe because those people who may be involved in extramarital affairs are not in this type of leadership position. I don't know. Just speculating. I don't know. But we did have Donald Trump, who was blasted all over the air for him having extramarital affairs and all of that during the presidential election in 2016. Let's continue.
Because it's the news. Ain't none of our damn business. Unless you fire him.
I agree. It's none of our business. It's none of our business as to what's going on if you're going to suspend. I do agree with that. But I don't think it has to be made racial because I think this is why they revealed the fact that he's doing this in the first place. Is because they don't want you to speculate whether they were being racist about just suspending him for no reason other than his skin color. Let's continue.
But if you keep him, it's none of our business. It should have never been put out there by the Celtics organization. And don't tell me you didn't do it. Because you absolutely did it. Because news reporters got it. So it emanated out of Boston. Somebody ain't in LA or Utah or something leaking this stuff about the Boston Celtics.
Right.
This is on y'all. You shouldn't have been out here. That's what I have to say. What I will say is this, and this is a message to the Boston Celtics. I got a problem with you as an organization right now. Because if you're not going to fire him, why the hell do we even know about this story?
Because you would have said that they are racist for suspending him for no reason. That's why. That is why. You're always making things racist, Stephen A. You should go back to how you used to be. You used to be a whole lot more conservative, and I think like your common sense was at an all-time high back then. Right now, I just think you felt like you let down black people and that you trying to get invited to the cookouts again. That's what I think.
Nobody's bringing that up. I'm going to bring it up. What the hell are you telling us for? I've been covering the NBA for over a quarter century. And I'm trying to tell you right now, I can't count the amount of fraternization, or dare I say more, that goes on in practically every damn organization within the National Basketball Association, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the list goes on and on. People get together, they working together. That stuff happens all the time.
Snitch? Stephen A. Snitch? Are you trying to say something? You want to spill a couple of beans? You going to write a book about this, Stephen? Are you? A little memoir?
Literally, anybody that covers the professional sports will tell you that is not new. The reason I'm bringing that up is not to excuse anything. Because if you're talking about, especially if it involves married folks and stuff like that, nobody condoning none of this stuff. That's not where I'm going here. The issue that I have with the Boston Celtics is that if you're firing him, you wouldn't tell us why. So if you're going to retain him, why let us know now? Why I have a problem with an organization. This is not about what transpired on the basketball court. This is not basketball decisions. The reports say it's two consenting adults. And no matter how unfavorable or egregious we may think their consensual behavior is, the fact of the matter is it's none of the public's damn business. Why do we know this?
I agree. I agree with that. You know, two consenting adults. But at the same time, you would want to know why he was suspended. Okay? And at the same time, this dude is in a position of leadership. He has power, he has influence. Okay? He is basically the person you go to when you're getting guys. If you're going to trade for this person, you're going to have to incorporate them into the system. He's just that, he is on that top of the totem pole. But now, with all this coming out, right? Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka, right? Can still get fired. Let's read. This was published by the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics announced today that the team has suspended head coach Ime Udoka for the 22-23 season for violations of team policies. A decision about his future with the Celtics beyond the season will be made at a later date. The suspension takes effect immediately. A decision about his future with the Celtics beyond the season will be made at a later date. The man may still get fired. Kind of sucks, right? So you gotta look at this from two perspectives right now. Now, let's listen to what Woj, he explained a little bit of the details in the Ime Udoka season-long suspension to Stephen A. Smith because he wanted more clarification. Let's take a listen.
Let me ask you this. So obviously, I read it right here. It's considered a violation of the organization's guidelines, but this is what I don't understand. So if you violate it, is it a hard, fast rule that you're suspended a year? Or how did they come to this year-long suspension?
You know, I think a big part of this, Molly, is the fact that, Ime Udoka is in a leadership position in this organization. And listen, only the Celtics could, whether it's Brad Stevens, their legal group, ownership, only they can say what the impact would be in a similar situation if he was an assistant coach, if he worked in the video room, if he worked in the ticket office. But he is the head coach of the team. And, I think this is a situation where there was a subordinate, somebody who worked within his leadership sphere. And I think that's certainly a big part of the significance of this suspension. And I think a breakdown, from the Celtics' point of view with Udoka in leadership, their trust, his decision-making, certainly, again, he is the head coach of a team. Had he been an assistant, would it be looked at differently? That's a good question, but he is the head coach.
Well, interesting point that I wanted to bring up, because in your reporting, you highlighted consensual relationship, but it also said, violation of organizational policy. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what it comes down to. What I'm interested in knowing from the Celtics' point of view, Woj, is this. Does the organization define this policy violation as sexual harassment? Is that where they're going with something like this? I don't know. I'm just talking about in terms of them. Even though it's consensual, they view it as a violation of their policy. Where does that come from? Is it sexual harassment that they're trying to imply here? I don't know.
I guess he's asking that because Ime Udoka is the one that's in trouble. I don't know if the person he was messing with got into trouble. So that's a good question. Are they looking at it from the lens of sexual harassment, or he somehow made her feel obligated to have a relationship or sexual relationship with him, because he has this power There's glamour to him. He's the head coach of the Boston Celtics, one of the most decorative teams in all of major league sports, right? So it's a fair question. Let's see how he answers this.
Well, Stephen A., I think there's a power dynamic here. And
A subordinate.
again, as the leader, as somebody who, in a workplace where he is the boss, where he is in charge, there is a different dynamic than if somebody was a peer, if somebody was, more of a colleague than, somebody who, again, is the leader, certainly on the basketball side, along with Brad Stevens, in a position of significant power and influence. And so there are, I think, different pressures that go along with that. And I think for the Celtics, I think that was a big part of this, was, again, that there's a different dynamic when it's the person in charge. And as a head coach, that is part of the responsibility and the burden for Ime Udoka. And
That's a good answer. I mean, it's a good answer because Stephen A. Smith, usually, when people usually put themselves into trouble, let's say, let me give you an example. They get charged for violating an anti-weed policy or something, right? And Stephen A's response to that is always, stay off the weed. Stay off the weed. The weed is something that you should stay away from, so it does not keep you away from the game. A weed should not be worth you losing millions of dollars. Stay off the weed. Right? So he goes in a tirade when it's something like that. You would think that maybe he would say the same thing. Stay off the chicks. Stay off of the chicks. I don't know if that's something that he would say, but I'm trying to see because he is kind of going off of what he usually say when people put themselves in a position to be suspended, to be fired, to be arrested, to get charged. This is what he usually say. He usually kind of holds them accountable and make them responsible for their actions. But right now, this is really not what he's doing. Let's continue. Let's see what his response is.
I think that speaks to the kind of suspension and punishment that was meted out here.
With your reporting, did you receive any indication whatsoever? We heard the statement from Ime Udoka that was read by Malika Andrews. We get that. But in your reporting, did you get any indication at all that there was any kind of strong resistance from him, a temptation to fight this in any way?
I think Udoka was limited in his options here. And again, I think essentially there were three options, Stephen A. and Molly, accepting the 1-year suspension, resignation, or firing. And certainly each has its own consequences in terms of your contract, money. Certainly those are all impacted in different ways based on any of those decisions. So I do think there was a process of days here where those conversations went back and forth between the Celtics and Udoka. But certainly I think both sides thought about all of those options. And again, a 1-year suspension that comes without an assurance that he returns for next season, it speaks to the fact that there's a real possibility he has coached his last game in Boston.
And that goes back to this. Boston Celtics suspended head coach Ime Udoka. And where it says right here, a decision about his future with the Boston Celtics beyond this season will be made at a later date. The man could very well get fired. So, and those three decisions that he had, whether to receive the suspension, right, resign, I forgot what the other one was, but those are going to have to do with his money. Now, the other thing is, if he had resigned and there was no explanation, again, as I said, reiterated from before, Stephen A. would have asked, why is this man resigning? Something happened within the organization. There is something racial going on. This is what Stephen A. would have said. And I gotta tell you, man, these woke people, okay, when you come off in that way, you gotta be careful. It's gonna come back to haunt you. It's gonna hurt how people reveal certain information. Boston Celtics may not have felt the need to reveal to the entire world what happened, because it hurts them too. Because according to their policy and his position as a leader in his organization, they would have to suspend him according to the rules and regulations, right? If they didn't, that may have been hypocritical on their part, right? And it may have haunt them in the future should something happen. But they responded because society puts it out there that, hey, yo, dude, you just can't suspend someone and not say why you suspended them. Or we're going to think Boston, as history have them as being this racist city. Okay? But, I mean, you've had Doc Rivers there. You've had Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. You've had Rajon Rondo, people who were the backbones of your organization, okay? So let's stop putting this type of woke nonsense into the atmosphere. I think it'll change the way in how people respond to certain situations. We got to think before we act, because we don't know what we put out there into the universe will hit the end and come right back. Now, if you like this video and you like my commentary on it and you like how I went about it or whatever, please hit that like button. Share this video, comment below. Do you agree with Stephen A. that this should not have been aired out in the way that it did? And at the same time, or do you think, yeah, you know what, Ime Udoka deserves everything that he's getting? What do you have? You know, me, I'm like, yo, you know what, yo, that's your decision. I think they should have kept that private. That's between Ime Udoka and the family. But when you sign a contract like this, and it may have been leaked, saying, yo, this is what's going on, and there are rumors coming out, I think the person that he was messing with actually leaked it out herself. Maybe she didn't want to play second fiddle. I don't know what's going on, but it felt like Boston was forced to explain the suspension, because Boston have a lot to lose. Now they're losing a great head coach who brought this team together and brought them to face the Golden State Warriors in the 2022 NBA championship round. They have a lot to lose. So it doesn't make sense for them to just want to reveal this because he's black. That don't make sense. Anyway, comment below what you think. It's me, Slimmy V, and this is the most offensive podcast ever. God bless, stress less, and let Yahweh do the rest. I'm out. Peace.